Jokers, jack-o'-lanterns and jackals, welcome to your weekly dose of horror news and fun. This is your episode 20 of TerrorVision Horror Podcast. I'm your host, Dan McGuinness, and joining me as always is my co-host, Jennifer, the Dream Warrior Strand. Together we are two people with a love of horror and feel the burn of our obsolete Blockbuster memberships. You can catch us weekly on all major podcasting services and on the YouTube. Jennifer, I just got through. I nearly stuffed up the whole start. How's your week been?
My week's been great. It's been super freaking hectic at work, so no rest for the wicked. I started back at the gym because COVID and winter have made me husky, and I have to change that.
Husky! Like your voice?
Husky.
Smoky cough?
No, I don't smoke anymore. No, I'm a little, what's the word? Curvy, robust.
Voluptuous?
Voluptuous, we'll go with that. So yes, back at the gym, easygoing because I've got a bunch of injuries because I'm basically an old lady. So slow and steady wins the race. Other than that, I had a weekend to myself, so I caught up on a bunch of movies that I've been meaning to watch, did a little bit of writing, and I hung out with my cat.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. Yeah. Cat hangs are always the best. I've just joined a Facebook group called Catcore. And it's just funny cat photos, but like done by young people. So some of them are quite funny. And I am. One of them was just like a picture of a cat, like it was indoors and it was shot from through a glass door. But the guy who was taking its legs were reflected in the thing. So it looked like the cat was just human legs with a cat head on top of it.
I love it.
Yeah, yes. Stuff like that. This week I've had a crappy buy whatever week. First of all, my sound bar. So I bought like a really nice sound bar for my really nice TV, and it came with a Bluetooth, what are they called? Subwoofer. And I've had it for about 7 weeks, and all of a sudden, bang, the subwoofer just loses its Bluetoothness, and it's just dead. And I contacted like the company, and they're like, that sounds faulty. You're going to probably have to send it back to who you bought it from. And of course, I bought it from Amazon.
Oh yeah, good luck.
But no, they were actually quite good. I just said, hey, my soundbar stopped connecting. I contacted the maker, and they said that it's faulty. What should I do? And they're just like, here's a code, here's a postage label to send it back to us, and we'll give you your money back straight away, which is nice because it was like $700. So I was like, I really want that back. So then there's the hassle of trying to post a soundbar and a subwoofer, which are like, one's a big square thing. The other one is a big, giant, long thing. And I don't own boxes that are big enough to do stuff like that. So I had to wait because I get my shopping delivered. So I had to wait for my food shopping to get delivered. And then make this contraption.
You had to MacGyver a box.
I had to MacGyver it. It's like bastardized box of all shapes and sizes, and just like took it to the post office, used like 2 whole rolls of sticky tape on it, trying to hold it together. And did that.
Yeah, we've all been there.
But the postman said I did a really good job, which made me feel like when I went home, I felt chuffed about that.
Yeah, look at me. Look at me wrapping boxes.
Then I bought a new set of Sony headset, the new like times 1000 M4s, whatever they're called, like noise cancelling ones. So got them. I haven't quite worked out how to use them yet with the computer, which we were just doing just before. So we've gone back to the old headset. But it sounds pretty good with everything else. And I got 4 new microphones for my video game podcast, Hat the Dino. So we can have guests on the show and stuff like that. And that's it, really. But yeah.
Busy week all around.
Busy week for busy people. But let's move straight on to homework. So every week, Jennifer and I set ourselves 2 horror movies to watch and then review them together the following week. We've moved down to 2 movies because, my life got really hectic and I could only afford to watch 2 movies at a time. But I actually think it's going to be better. I think we can we can wax more about one movie rather than rushing through a whole heap of them.
It's true.
Get deeper, dive deeper into it. Dive right into its colon.
Oh yeah, we're going to burrow deep, nice and deep like.
Burrow deep. Anyhow, so we have a rating system, the TerrorVision hot rating system, which goes as follows, starting from the best rating as A, which is an awesome movie that everyone should watch, like you movie. We have B, which is a beer and chicken wings group movie. We have F for fun and dumb. We have a C, which is a classic that's worth a watch. We have G, which is good for its time, but has not held up. We have J, which is a Jen special, which is a movie that, everyone else would hate apart from Jen. And we have D, which is a Dan special, which is exactly the same as the Jen special, but for me. We have a W, which is the whatever, like the wah, whatever, who cares. Didn't even come up on my radar. We have the S for shit. Avoid. Don't watch.
Yep.
And then the all-time low, the colon of ratings, the FF, the fucking fucked. The avoid at all costs movie. So
it's true. I'd like to remind everybody that Texas Chainsaw Massacre Next Generation was the film that inspired this new rating. And I will remind everyone of that every freaking week.
Yeah, I was going to say, we remind people of that every week. So if you really want to watch the shittest of shit fucking fucked films, watch that. Bloody McConaughey and Zellweger. You wouldn't think it's going to be bad, but it is.
Tragic.
All right, so we got first film. So these were two that I chose this week for us to watch as homework. So hopefully our listeners have we put up on our Facebook. So follow us on Facebook. We put up our homework movies so you can watch them before, so you don't get spoilers, and you can just go through and see if your opinions are the same as ours. And our first one is Gremlins 2: The New Batch from 1990. Now, I love Gremlins. I'm just going to do a disclaimer.
Just have your gush.
No, I'm just saying, I love Gremlins. I love Gremlins 1. I love Gremlins 2. So, obviously, I know lots of people do not like Gremlins 2, hey. As soon as I started mentioning that to people, they're like, why are you watching that piece of shit? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like,
It's very interesting because a lot of the feedback I got on the social media, and even on my social media when I started posting it, I had friends and messaging me going, fucking love Gremlins 2. Yeah. I'm still sitting here going, I don't remember Gremlins 2. What am I doing? I had to go back, and honestly, I did a double feature this weekend. I watched the first two.
You watched them both?
I watched them both because I hadn't seen Gremlins in a while.
Oh, really? I watch it quite often. It is such a solid film, hey?
Pretty fucking bleak.
Oh, man. Anyway, we'll get into it. Director, Joe Dante. He did Gremlins. He did Inner Space. He did Small Soldiers. He did The Howling. What's his that? Chuck Jones. Uncredited. Yeah, Chuck Jones as well. Was he came out, I think he was out of retirement or something like that.
He did. They coerced him out of retirement. So for those of you who don't know who Chuck Jones is, he is basically an animator for Looney Tunes. And I'm not talking the crappy Looney Tunes now. He was the guy for Looney Tunes in the 40s and whatnot. So he's a big name.
And then we have the screenplay by Charles Hass and Chris Columbus, which is such a funny name, eh? Every time he's in films, I'm just like, Christopher Columbus. And then we got starring in it. We have Zach Galligan, who plays Billy, I think. Phoebe Cates. And so Billy's in Gremlins and Waxworks. Phoebe Cates out of Gremlins and Drop Dead Fred, if you remember that one. I love that. And then Christopher Lee, who is, he's is his name Saruman in Lord of the Rings?
I want to say yes, but
he's the evil white wizard who turncoats on Gandalf and makes an army of dickheads.
He also had a death metal band.
Yes. He he actually has a Christmas album as well, a death metal Christmas album I play in my shop, and he's he's the drummer boy to full he's like, you said it into him. He's singing like that. It's so good. And then we got good old Dick Miller, known from Gremlins and Gremlins 2 and a whole bunch of other small car roles.
He's in so much shit. Fucking Dick Miller for the win.
Unfortunately, this film did not make it. It was cost $50 million to make, but it only made $41 million back. So this is a lot. Basically, is that count as a flop?
Yeah, I feel that anything that I think it was a bit of a box office disaster. Keep in mind though that this information is only domestic, so it's just what it made in the US. I'm not sure what it made worldwide.
And who knows what its DVD sales did and its toys and franchises after the fact kind of thing, how Star Wars, did all its money in its toys and crap like that.
Yeah, I mean, Gremlins is really big for like toys and stuff. It's kind of like I think it's probably why I avoided it so much because I'm a snob, and it was ended up being like that Nightmare Before Christmas kind of thing where all these young people were super into it, and you could just get Gremlin stuff everywhere. So
But
I was like,
could
no,
you though? Because I remember as a kid not having much Gremlin stuff. I did have one of those read-along tape books. Do you remember them? When you hear the
I love
chimes,
them.
turn the
Yes.
page. Yeah, I
Oh,
had the Gremlins
nostalgia.
one of that, and I remember
Oh, glorious. I love that.
I loved this film.
Yes.
So
Okay.
synopsis
Synopsis.
time.
All right. Here they grow again. Best tagline. Young sweethearts, Billy and Kate move to the Big Apple, land jobs in a high-tech office park, and soon reunite with the friendly and lovable Gizmo. But a series of accidents creates a whole new generation of gremlins. The situation worsens when the devilish green creatures invade a top-secret laboratory and develop genetically altered powers, making them even harder to destroy.
They're not even green in this one though. They're just all shades of brown.
Yeah,
And
they're like blue gremlins.
yeah, so straight away, I put this on. I hadn't seen this one in a while. I do watch Gremlins 1 a fair lot. Straight away,
Mm-hmm.
opening, I'd forgotten it starts as a Warner Brothers cartoon opening.
Yes, why not?
And I'm like, yeah, with like, and it was Fat Daffy as well. Did you notice?
Yep, OG Daffy, I love it.
Yeah, OG Fat Daffy. Well, Daffy's
Mm-hmm.
quite thin these days. He's like very beanpole. Now, that really, really, really sets the tone for the whole film, hey?
100%.
Because
Yeah.
you really can't imagine them putting a cartoon little weird bit at the start of the first Gremlins.
No.
It just
No.
it just wouldn't make sense. Yeah, and straight away I was like, all right, I remember this. So did you get to this part and you were like, what? What's going on? Like,
A little bit, yes. I sort of didn't really know what to take from it and why it was kind of done, but I was so on board with it because after that I was like, maybe I'll go watch some Looney Tunes after this. Yeah, I'll do that.
I only watched that Looney Tunes, was it Back in Action last week?
I saw that you watched that. Yeah, why?
Well, I had like my mate around and I showed him like Darjeeling Limited. And the guy actually had a bunch of the millennial movie talk people around, and I just showed them a good film, and they're like, they all as kids, they're the appropriate age that was like their kids' film because mine was like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and theirs was that, which is quite similar, and I'd never seen this or heard of it and watched it, and I was like, it wasn't that bad. Like you have Brandon Fraser. He's the main character, and he plays the stuntman to Brandon Fraser in the Mummy films. So he plays like. And he's paying out Brandon. He goes, man, I was more in those Mummy films than Brandon Fraser was as the stuntman. Like, weird jokes like that and heaps of meta stuff. It was quite fun. It was really fun.
Okay. Yeah.
And they've gone ham, obviously, with the how they did it with Roger Rabbit, and this is like way down the track, and it's even better, like full on interaction with like characters and like real life. Like even when they move quickly, like rugs on the ground move along the ground and stuff like that. The characters.
I like that. It's a little attention to details that I quite like.
Yeah.
Real gets to me.
So I can see straight away that your second note is this a little racist?
It is. It's a little, like, you could not do this now.
Which bit?
Okay, so the Chinatown bit, so he runs a little Oriental. I think there was a comment that the guy had made about it being, like, Chinese or Oriental. But it was like in such a derogatory term that I'm like, oh, you could not do that now.
Of course, because that was always a big thing that confused me in Gremlins as a little kid. I didn't understand the concept of Chinatown in America. It was the same reason I was really confused with Big Trouble in Little China. I was like, Are they in China? Why are they in America now? I didn't have this concept that there is huge communities of like, Chinatowns and stuff like that. And obviously it starts in Chinatown where they bought Gizmo from, which the old Asian guy, he's got Gizmo from the first film, and he dies basically.
Yeah, he's a little old, little coffee, just dies. He dies.
There is a tiny story around it, but it's really inconsequential to the rest of the film. Hey, it's just a massive excuse of why Gizmo is out in the streets and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think to me it was a little bit strange because he dies and they just demolished the building without taking anything out of it.
Well, it's the Clamp Industries. They don't care about anything. They're multi-billionaires. They don't care what's in a junk shop. They did make that quite clear at the start, where they were just like, everything was dusty, and they were like, "Ooh, this is gross in here," kind of thing.
Yeah.
So maybe they're just like, they're billionaires. They just want the land to create new apartment buildings. So. And then, then basically the two twin guys rock up. The guys that were from Terminator 2. Do you remember they were in that?
I have no idea. Like, I was racking my brain. I almost went and watched Terminator 2 just so I could remember that. I don't remember who the fuck they are.
There was a security guard in Terminator 2.
Yeah.
And which was that actor. And then when, because they're twins in real life, when the T-1000 took on the form of him, the brother just played the T-1000, so it looks really real because there actually are two people that are identical in the same shot.
Interesting. Okay.
And then he puts his finger up, if you remember, and a big kind of spear skewer comes out and skewers the guy in the head. I just remember it quite well, that scene. And so this twin guy gets often put into films because he has an identical twin. So they played identical twin scientists, which you assume in this film is like ham-fistedness that they're clones kind of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So they find Gizmo on the street and they bring him to the Clamp Tower, the future building, which if you look at it now is quite a normal building.
Yeah, it's he's waving their little wand over the guy's badge pin, and I'm like, yeah, that's normal now.
But just like talking elevators, that's not weird anymore. No. Doors that what are they called? Like revolving doors that revolve automatically, like IKEA, and stuff and they stuff up like IKEA.
Yes.
It's supposed to be this building of the future, a really far-fetched, comical building. And to tell you the truth, nowadays in 2020, who would have thought 30 years later we have buildings that it just seemed a bit passé and the humor just wasn't really there. It had a couple of bits I thought were funny, like where the voiceovers were always funny. There was a bit where it's just like, with the person with the license plate number, whatever, please move your car. Your car is old and dirty. And I thought that was pretty funny.
Yes, I like that. Did you at all think that the Clamp Industries logo was very much a logo for a supervillain?
Yeah, I've always liked the Clamp logo. It's like the C and it's pushing down the world, like it's clamping the world down. I thought it was really cool. And I've always thought about like Clamp Industries as like my go-to thought when I think of big multinational conglomerates. I think of Clamp.
Sure, give them the clamps.
Yeah, the clamps.
The clamps.
Oops. Then we're introduced to Christopher Lee, who also plays a scientist. So this building, not only is it a conglomerate office space, it also rents out floors, and of course it's rented out one of the floors to a cutting-edge biogenetics engineering lab run by Christopher Lee as the head scientist. There are a lot of jokes in this kind of scene, which was he's got like one of the pods from like Invasion of the Body Snatchers in there. They've got like a whole bunch of stuff like that. And this basically, this lab gives the whole movie the opportunity to do whatever it wants, because it's it's genetics, it's like fringe genetics that makes no apparent sense. So this is where they can just go, let's do whatever we want. Let's make whatever gremlins we want.
Why not? Why not?
Why not indeed? What did you think of the puppets in this one, Jen?
I really I thought that this was a step above. So I think Rick Baker actually came on board to do the puppetry and the special effects, and he's very well known in amongst the horror community. I mean, he's not up there with Savini, but he's still way up there. So I see that you said that you like these ones better as well. They were definitely better than the first one.
I don't know. I didn't like all the designs of the gremlins. So the main difference in this film is that every gremlin is unique. Where the first film, every gremlin was exactly the same. They just looked kind of like, they might have had some little tiny differences, but the majority of them, they were like the same color, the same shape, the same size kind of thing. Where this one, they're different colors, they're different shapes, and I can only assume and I've thought of this before. I
Mm-hmm.
can only assume because Gremlins, they evolve so quickly. You know, from getting wet, they instantly multiply, and then from eating after midnight, it takes them like an hour to metamorphosis. So they've got a really high evolutionary rate, and I can only
Yep.
assume that the time that's taken between the first film and this film, they have evolved into
Mm.
something different again, like as in, you know, so when they do multiply and turn into things, they are vastly different from, and maybe in 30 years times now, if Gremlins like were around now, and they would turn into something even more different. Maybe now,
Mm.
because that genetic thing has fucked with them, that they might actually come out as spiders, as bats, and stuff like that. It's a theory. It's definitely a fan theory with no backup, which I just made up on the spot.
No, but that's so fair because, like, at one point throughout the film, and because I watched both of the films back to back, and I'm like, why are they so mean to Gizmo? Like, there is no freaking need for
Yeah, they
it.
hate him, don't they?
He's a beautiful summer flower. You fucking leave him alone. And then in the end, I had to, like, get on the old Google and be like, why do the Gremlins hate him? So Gizmo is the perfect being, and as he like pops out all these little gremlins, all of the like emotion and everything is sort of repressed. So now they're no longer polite, they're no longer this or that or the other. So they see him as this just garbage thing.
Like a threat, kind of as well. Like they're,
Quite possibly more of like he's useless to them. Like he is not to them. He is not an evolved being.
You're right. He's the core. Yeah, yeah, right. I never looked into that one. I like that
Yeah.
because they
So
always
I'm
have been
assuming.
really mean to him, haven't they?
Yeah, and I was getting really mad. I'm like, all you people talking about this Baby Yoda business, like, no, protect Gizmo at all costs. He's cuter, and I said it. I don't care what anyone says.
Because they
Fight
had
me.
what I did really notice in this film, which I actually said to you, but I looked up later and found out is true that a lot of the close-up shots of the Mogwais,
Mm-hmm.
Gizmo and what's the other one called? Mohawk is the new bad
Yep.
guy.
No,
Like because
okay.
yeah, Mohawk and there's like the dummy. They've all got names. I can't remember their names. The crazy one.
Mm.
When it showed their faces close up, the animatronics were crazy, and I think they worked in like big versions of them to do the close up
Yeah,
shots. So
yeah, definitely.
and the big handshake when you see them making stuff and that, and I think that really really added to the film a lot. Like just seeing them like close up and really having the tongue movements, the eye movements, all their lips, like the fur and eyebrows. I thought that gave it a lot. And the crazy one
Well,
is
even
is crazy. Hey, like
yeah,
I
like Daffy. I think his name's Daffy, and he's just like, and his eyes are like bugging around in his head.
yeah, I actually
So
think he
that
looked.
in itself.
I think he looked better as the Mogwai. I didn't like his gremlin metamorphosis
Yeah.
because his eyes were too big and close together. I thought he looked a bit too wacky. But I do love
Same.
like him just as the crazy one, how much effort they put into him being crazy. Like he's animated all over. He's constantly moving and
Mm-hmm.
like even the bit where like, you know, Billy picks him up at one stage and he just goes crazy. Like his arms and legs and head are just
Yeah.
going at 1,000 Ks an hour. And I was just like, this is funny. This is like no one's come close to making a film like this. It's like
No, I think someone on our Facebook page commented that this was the closest we will ever get to like a live action Looney Tunes film. And I definitely agree with them on that one. This is very animated, it's very cartoony, it's all of these crazy things. It was a lot of fun. There is actually a documentary that came out this year called Gremlins: A Puppet Story, and
ooh,
it had a very short run at a cinema in America. It's insanely hard to track down. I was hoping to track it down before this episode, but it's all about how they went about doing Gremlins 2, kind of things. So that would be definitely one to watch.
yep. It's oh man, it's so good. I like this. It's such a fast moving film. It's so
It
good.
is.
And the puppets are
So they,
so much better than the first one. Like and there's so many more of them, I think. Like and it's not just more as in, you know, they've made some puppets. There's like a lot of puppets that all have complex movements and stuff. They're not just a block puppet in the background.
that's right.
And then you have like and of course the genetics labs happen. So you know, they get into the genetics lab and all the gremlins, because of, I can only assume, because of their ridiculous, you know, metamorphosis and evolution rate, they drink potions, or not potions, what are they? They're like formulas or whatever. Chemicals, and it changes them. So they, they have like, there's like a vat of one that has a spider on it, and one of them turns into a spider. Then one of them has a bat, and it turns into a bat. And then there's like genetic sunblock, so then they can go out in the sun. And then there's like, just crazy, fun, go ham, like whatever ideas. There's one that turns into a lady. There's one that turns into vegetables, which is still really well done. Like when it's changing and like the vegetables are popping out onto its skin, I can only assume they're like little blow up things or something. Like
I'd say so.
It just
definitely.
They've just gone great. I love it so much. And then
the film itself is very satirical as well. So it satires itself, and it's satiring a lot of consumerism as well. So all of this whole building has everything in it that you can possibly imagine. So, at one point they're like scurrying through a TV station, and then they're up on a floor where there's like, party happening and all this like food court and stuff. And there's this very similar food court to you'd find in a mall, not a building.
Yeah. It's like like the every building kind of thing.
Yeah. I really liked that at one point, I don't know if you noticed, that John Aston is in it. He has a very small bit role as the janitor. And
when he gets fired.
Yeah, not him. Oh. He's the one who's fixing the fountain, and the fountain sprays at Gizmo.
He's the one who fucks everything up.
Yeah, but as he's like walking past, Gizmo looks up and he's like, Gomez? Because he played Gomez Adams. Like,
did he say that?
That's
another Warner Brothers franchise, isn't it?
Yeah, I want to say it is. Yeah, but this was like Gomez from the original TV series. Not the awesome 90s movies. And then there's like another bit where the gremlin who turns into the bat like flies out the wall, and there's just that Batman logo on the wall, which is cool.
Yeah. Oh, there's heaps of like breaking fourth wall things. There's a bit where the gremlins attack a guy because there's also a cable network in this building, as in a TV station. Yep. There's a bit where a guy's just like he's reviewing the first Gremlins film.
Yes. And he did, like, that's Leonard Maltin, and he did do the, like, pan the shit out of Gremlins. And so this is, like, the fact that he's, like, a good sport, and they're like, hey, can you come, and we're just going to, and he's like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah, and then he gets attacked by the Gremlins. There's so many of these, like, little, fourth wall breaking things. The bit where, my favourite bit ever, because I saw this in the cinema. So my favourite bit in this film, the bit I always remember, is like where they're talking in the genetics lab, and then the sound starts to fuck up, and then the film burns.
Yes.
And that happened in the cinema. I saw it in the cinema, and everyone in the cinema went, like they thought that their movie was fucked. And then all of a sudden, the Gremlins will start coming out and doing shadow puppets behind the screen, and it's just like, oh my god, this is crazy good fun. And then you think that's enough, and then it like someone comes out and just goes like, the Gremlins have ruined the film. Like, the first one was bad enough. This is crap. And then he goes, don't worry, I'll fix it. And then they get Hulk Hogan to yell at the Gremlins.
Yes.
Like, actual Hulk. Why not? He's like, people will pay good money to watch the Gremlins. Now let us watch Gremlins 2. And then you can hear the Gremlins go like, okay. Like, I'm like, what's going on? This is just a roller coaster ride of just like, stupid.
Of insanity.
Yeah. And then, of course,
even the mother coming out and yelling at the usher. That actually happened to Joe Dante. He was in, I think, at a screening for Gremlins, and this woman came out. She's like, "This is the biggest load of shit. My kid is not to watch this." The kid ended up sneaking back in, and he just remembered that so like distinctly that he had to chuck it in this film, and I think it's like great.
It's amazing. Imagine she saw that and just went, "Oh, that was me." But then we have to talk about my favourite gremlin, which is the talking one. The brain gremlin. Brainy, or whatever his name is. They've all got names, I can't remember them. But I love this gremlin. I think he's hilarious. I think his voice is unbelievably good.
I was slightly disappointed that he wasn't voiced by Kelsey Grammer. I know Tim Curry was actually up for the role.
I actually thought it was Kelsey Grammer and looked it up because I went, that must be Frasier. That sounds so much like Frasier. And it's just not him. It's just someone that sounds exactly like him.
Yeah, I was sad. Like, I was really bummed out. I'm like, no, it would have been better. But it's
Yeah.
fine.
I love
No.
just everything he says, especially that interview that he has with like the horror movie vampire guy on the cable network, and just everything
Yeah.
how he says it. He goes, "You have what we want, civilization." Like just how he says it all. I'm like, oh my god, I love him so much. He's got a little pair of glasses,
Yeah.
and he sings at the end. He sings New York, New York, and I'm
Oh,
like, you're such a good gremlin, and
but
he's
I
great.
mean, what is it without a musical number? Like, you've got to have a musical number in a film like this.
Indeed, and then you got Greta, the lady gremlin that comes out, in the musical number, but she just can't sing. She just goes, ah.
Well, she's doing her best Marilyn Monroe, so why not?
Yeah,
Um, I had some issues with that towards the end, because obviously the main character, he was actually the bad guy. So, no, what was his name?
but the guy that was runs the building, bad guy.
Forrester. So Robert Picardo.
Yep.
He wasn't John Daniel Clamp, who actually ended up being a bit of a hero character, and I loved him.
Yeah, I like Daniel Clamp.
He was great. But I found that Forrester was he got trapped with this woman gremlin, and pretty much she comes up, in a wedding dress, and she's looking at him, giving him kissy kissy lips, and he kind of just, in the end, he's like,
Fuck it.
yep. And he 100% had his dick sucked by a gremlin.
Maybe.
And I don't know how I feel about that.
But I noticed in our Facebook group, one of my mates said to tagged one of my other friends in it and going, remember when you thought the lady gremlin was hot? I was like, perfect.
Hey, people have weird things about animated and
look at furries.
Real.
Why can't you get it? Why wouldn't you want a bit of, if you can like a man dressed as a big fluffy dog, there's no way you couldn't get into a bit of lady gremlin. Saying it.
I'm good on both ends, but yeah, each to their own. No shade. You guys do you.
I like that, because Mr. Futterman comes back, he's back into it. He's back in. Racist old Mr. Futterman's back. This film had a lot of racial points in it, actually. It had the stereotypical Asian character, and they played on the fact that he loved, taking photos. And I'm like, oh, that's a bit ham-fisted, and, I didn't like that. Got to throw that out there. Did not like that. But yeah, Mr. Futterman, also a racist. He's always blaming stuff on, foreigners. Yes. And then, he rocks up to New York, and out of all the people in the world, the gremlin bat, who has genetic sunblock, could attack, it attacks him out of everyone in New York.
And he's got, crazy PTSD from the first Gremlins movie as well.
He drove a snowplow through his house.
It's true. I kind of feel that the film would have, I'm not saying that he shouldn't have been in this film because, everyone loves a bit of dick. But I don't feel that he really played any major role. It could have been anyone else, or it could just not have happened.
No, yeah. It could have been anyone else. They just brought him in purely because he was in the first film, which is fine. Yeah, so someone had to do it. Why not Mr. Futterman? Exactly. I also really like the electrical gremlin. I think that one looks crazy good, still to this day. It just looks like an actual electricity, in the shape of a gremlin that's flying around. And I love it how they put it on hold, and it's stuck in that little screen with its with the on hold music, and it hates it. I've always liked that. There's the franticness of its animation style and how fast it moves and how much it hates that music. I've always liked that bit. Yep. And then in the end, he is the demise. They spray all the gremlins with water, and he electrocutes them all, which doesn't really make sense, but sure.
This film is not really a film where you can sort of sit back and ask too many questions. And
it's held together with sticky tape. This film, you start moving those edges, they're just gonna fall apart. It's the worst made cardboard box in the world.
It's totally fine. So I really enjoyed this, and I liked this more than the first one.
It's
slightly, but I like a little bit of silly.
But the first one's got such a different tone. It's almost a different everything. The first one is borderlining on a full horror film. It's got that scene where what's the girl's name in the film?
Phoebe Cates.
Whose
name is Kate.
Kate, that's it.
Yeah.
Kate, in the first film, has that story. You know, she tells about her dad dying on Christmas Day, which is like cripplingly horrible. And in this one, they pay out that scene.
I was just gonna say,
She's
I
like,
really enjoyed that because she's like,
don't mention the link for the memorial.
and he's just like, we don't have time for this, honey. Like, let's just move along.
And it was like,
I thought that was really good.
yeah, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the elevator bit. I thought her role was really good in this film. She does more than Billy does, I reckon.
Yeah.
She's like in the elevator scene. Remember the elevator? It goes down and then all the gremlins smash up through the floor and she's covered in green for the rest of the film, like guts.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
I do like that also. There's not as many gremlin killings in this, but there is the paper shredder one with Mr. Clamp, which is the most violent one. Which is pretty
just running a bunch of pesto through a machine at that point.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh, it was great. Like, but the face the gremlin makes when his foot gets caught in there with his lips is like this amateur, like, oh, and I was like, oh god. But yeah, I love Mr. Clamp. He has good lines. He's just a real like an eccentric millionaire kind of thing. That's like trying to do good, but he's not.
Well, he thinks he's doing good, but it's not.
But he says that good line at the end. He's like, you build a place for monsters and monsters come. And I'm like, that's a good line. I don't mind that.
Yes. I also really like where he's come out of his little secret exit and they're questioning him and they're like, oh, so what you're saying is there's no monsters? He's like, I never said that. And he just sort of keeps walking.
Yeah.
I was racking my brain for a lot of this film, like, where have I seen him from before? And he had such a long-lasting effect. He was in an episode of Frasier where he was playing Frasier's boss, and he was about to fire Frasier. And it turns out that he was in turn fired and basically just having this massive screaming match.
That was the new boss, wasn't he? That one that, like, they ended up, like, hating each other, like, from the get-go? Was that one?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
It's just one of those things. So he's such a good actor as well. Like every time I see him, he has this sort of sinister vibe to him, but is actually quite endearing.
Yeah, he's a good person.
I'm okay with it.
He reminds me a little bit of American Psycho.
Yes.
And in this as well, like he plays like, the rich like businessman. So you just like, oh yeah, Americans. Yeah, I get that. Yeah. I mean, there's so much more we haven't talked about this film, but we should move on a little bit.
We should.
Because we have been actually talking about Gremlins for 37 minutes.
I apologize, everyone.
I don't.
Gremlins is awesome. I could
have done a whole show on this. If we watched Gremlins 1 and 2 for this, I thought about doing that.
Yeah.
I could have gone forever. So, what did you give this one?
I gave this an A for awesome, and everyone should definitely watch it.
See, I thought about giving it that. But there are so many people that hate this film that I can't recommend it to everybody. And then I stood back and thought, maybe it's me. Maybe this film just speaks to me. So I gave it a Dan special.
Ooh. I'm going to agree with that. I don't think everyone is going to get it, but I feel that everyone should probably watch it at some point.
Oh yeah, if you haven't seen it, you should give it a go. A classic worth a watch. Maybe it can fall into that category as well as a C.
And it also falls under the beer and chicken wings.
I know. It's got too many hats. It's like a bloody hat rack of awesomeness of letters.
Well, it's an ABCD. It's an awesome, a beer, a fun, and a Dan.
Oh yeah, imagine it spelled Dan. I need an N in there.
All those things together, Dan is awesome. Dan drinks beer. Dan is a classic.
Yes. Yeah. Anyhow, let's move on to our second film, which is a lot more serious. What is it, Jen?
So we watched Poltergeist, 1982, directed by Tobe Hooper, screenplay by Steven Spielberg, starring Craig T. Nelson, who is the voice of The Incredibles' dad. I don't know what his name is. I'm not looking it up.
Mr. Incredible.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I've seen it once. He was also in Blades of Glory. He's in a lot of stuff. He's not like a crazy big name actor, but you see him in things. It's also starring Jo Beth Williams, Zelda Rubinstein, and Heather O'Rourke. It had a budget of $10.7 million and box office of $121.7. So I would say this is a very successful film. It was the highest grossing horror film of 1982 and the 9th highest grossing film of 1982.
That's crazy. Now that is a success. And the reason
Yes.
is this movie's success is that not only is it a great horror film, it's also a
Mhm.
great film. Um,
Oh, yes.
like when I started watching it, my wife was like, "You only watched this like recently," and then she just sat down and watched it.
Yeah.
Like she had just watched it and she watched it again because it's just a great film.
There's so much to unpack with this. Like, this is the film that we could have done a whole episode on
And we will.
because it is, yeah, we're going to cut that runtime. My ass. We're talking about Poltergeist. There is so much to unpack. Like, the fact that this film is considered a cursed film, the fact that there's all this crediting controversy. There is, like, this umbrella, this world of interesting information surrounding this fantastic film. So,
Yeah, and there's a weird like, at this point in this thing, when this is happening, like there's some weird things that we'll get into. Actually, we can just say them now, I reckon. Like, so at 34 minutes into the film, there is, and I noticed this on mine, and I've had one copy of this film my whole life, so I thought, I just had a a shit copy. There is a jump cut in mid sentence where they're talking about, Carol. They're talking about like she's just worked out that the chair can move in the house, and the husband and wife are talking about it, and it jump cuts mid sentence into the next scene, which is also mid sentence when they're talking to the neighbors. And I was always like, I thought my copy was just I had a shit version of it, but no, that is in the film, and that is because just before the jump cut, they talk about going to Pizza Hut, and then Craig Nelson's character says, "Oh man, I hate Pizza Hut." And Pizza Hut got so angry at that, they made them crudely just cut it out of the film, and they just did it really quickly. And that has been they have never fixed that, and it's just been in there forever. In one of the most classic films that made the most amount of money, there is a heinous cut between two sentences. It's so weird and jarring, but I kind of like that it's there. It makes it gives us this weird vibe. You know what I mean? Like it's like it's haunted, that tiny bit of the film.
So we watched it last night. So my girlfriend Liz watched it with me. She was actually kind enough she found a copy a few weeks back. She found a copy of it on VHS for 20 cents and bought it for me.
Ooh.
So we ended up watching it on VHS last night, and right in the middle of that storm we had. So it was like we had the tone set. So, but even then, like we were watching it, this scene popped up. She's like, "Oh, is there something wrong with the VHS?" I'm like, "No, it's meant to be there. It's fine."
Oh, you knew that was supposed to be there? Because I had to look. I didn't know that was there. I just thought it was a fuck up. And then when I was researching it, I found that it's in there. But that's great. So anyhow,
yes.
What is the credit controversy?
Okay, so let me
the short version.
Try and okay. So I'm gonna tell it my way.
Yes.
So Tobe Hooper is the director.
Yeah.
Steven Spielberg is Steven Spielberg. So at the point that E.T. the Extraterrestrial was being filmed, this film was being filmed.
Yeah.
There was delays on the set of E.T., which meant that Steven Spielberg was on set for Poltergeist quite a lot. Now, Steven Spielberg is the kind of guy, he's got big dick energy, let's be real. Like, he's come onto this set, he's like, oh, well, maybe we should do this. And Tobe Hooper is kind of there just like, yep, okay, cool. Well, let's do it your way. So there was this whole controversy over who did more work than the other person.
Yeah.
And of course, everyone just is going to side with Spielberg because it's Steven Spielberg.
It did feel very Spielbergy. You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely. So I think he had a big hand in, like I say, he's come in and he's like, I think we should do this, 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 and this. And when you've got someone like Steven Spielberg standing there telling you that he thinks you should do it this way, you're going to listen to what Steven Spielberg says.
True.
So Tobe Hooper still has the directing credit, but there's always been this controversy. I think Spielberg actually came out and said something in an interview about Tobe not being a take charge kind of guy, which he then later retracted and apologized for. So there's a whole saga around it.
Well, there's I noticed because I always I Tobe or Toby, however you say his name, because he did that train wreck of a film which I didn't like. What was it? Funhouse.
Funhouse. Yeah, I didn't like
And
that either. But he did Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
that is true, but that was a long time ago. He might have fluked that one, but like
Yeah.
Funhouse, like it doesn't feel anywhere near as good as this film. Like as in like characterization, and I feel what Steven Spielberg brought to this film was the family and how they acted, how they reacted with each other, how the feelings of the opening of this film, which I'm just going to get straight into. Actually, no, first, right. So the suburbanness, capturing suburban life in this film is, I think, nearly some of the best versions of capturing that ever in any film. Like the shots of the suburban, like, you know, streets, the kids in the street. The opening of that dude, he's like riding his bike with the beers down the street, and the kids like get the cars under him, and then it goes in and they're watching footy, and you know, both their neighbours have the same remote on the same control, you know, like same, and just all that, like, just adding to this family, and they're just, you know,
it's very idyllic America.
Yeah, and I think that's the whole point. It was supposed to be really idyllic America because of later on what happens, kind of thing. You know, they're the everyman suburban. You know, they don't live in a haunted house. They don't live in like a scary street. They don't. Yeah, they haven't gone to a fucking Indian burial ground or a haunted cave, or they haven't found a cursed artifact. It's all happening in a really normal place. But I think it's a version of suburbia that I love. It's that, like, seeing that kid's room and seeing all his like 80s toys that are in that room. Were you looking at all the toys he had? Like, he had so much Star Wars stuff, which I'm pretty sure some of that stuff is worth a bit of money now. Because he has a Luke Skywalker, the one where the lightsaber comes out of his hand. Like, and I reckon that was, like, you know, one of the... I'm not sure. I can't remember. Anyhow, the opening.
Definitely.
The opening of this movie is like, you know, the end of channel opening in America with like the national anthem, and it's, you know, super close and it zooms out. I've mentioned this before, I've always been afraid of the end of channel things. These are a thing that young people, millennials now, probably don't know what they are. So basically,
they have no idea.
Around about 1 o'clock or maybe 2 o'clock every night, the TV channel would end. And it would play a video montage of, so in Adelaide, it just played, like, you know, shots of the Torrens, the city, and it would have music over it, and it was like, thank you for watching. And then it would just go to static. The TV station would end. This always scared me at the end when I saw this as I got older, because I was like, wow, if TV's ended, the world has ended. And I don't know if I said this in the last show. Like, so it opens with that. So it opens with the end, you know, the national anthem and the American ending, and it goes to static. And then it has Caroline come down, and she starts talking to the screen, the static, as if it is another child kind of thing. She's like, hello? Yes? And you can't hear what they're saying. It's so good. She's just like, no, I don't know. No, she's just answering how a kid would answer. And it made me feel like, are they actually just asking her questions and they've cut the audio out of the person talking to her? But it was
Quite possibly.
It was really...
She was flipping adorable. Can I just say? Like, oh my God, adorable.
Yeah, she was... well, I think Drew Barrymore went for the role as well, but they chose her because she was more angelic.
That's right. However, that audition then led to Drew Barrymore being cast in E.T., so it kind of worked out for the best. Yeah.
So you were saying earlier this is a cursed film. Explain.
Yes. Okay. So there's a lot of little things. There is actually a series on Shudder called Cursed Films. This is also one of the episodes. However, this is historically synonymous with cursed films anyway. So of course, the tragic death of Heather O'Rourke, the other young actress, Dominique Dunn, she was killed by her boyfriend that year. So she had died. And I believe there was another gentleman in the film who was murdered at another time. Of course, all of these horrible things that are happening. There's a point in the film where, with the scene at the end with all the skeletons coming out. Yep. They're all real skeletons. Now, it's really funny to...
Were they?
They are all real, but this is not old news. This is done generally throughout Hollywood. Throughout over the decades and years and years and years, they use real skeletons because it's cheaper.
Wait, so all those were real corpses in the pool?
Yes, real skeletons. Yeah.
They were like in water, muddy water with real corpses.
Well, real skeletons. Yeah. Anything that had like rotting flesh, I believe, was probably fake. I wouldn't think
Right, they
they'd
might have
get a.
jazzed up a skeleton with some.
Why not? Why not? Yeah, so it's not uncommon. Jo Beth Williams was not told about that until after the fact. So I don't I don't think she would have taken it very well. So yeah, there's a lot of history to this film. Very interesting, very distressing. So if you obviously I do recommend checking out the Cursed Film series on Shudder. It gives you a lot more information, goes real deep.
Yeah, it's good.
Nass deep.
First thing I didn't like in the film though is I thought the tree that was outside of his room, the kid, looked so bad.
Yeah.
That tree just looked like a year 12 art student's take on a tree. It was like abysmal. It was so bad. Because apparently there's like the same tree is in the cemetery. You know, they go to the cemetery and they're having a conversation, him and his boss.
Yeah.
That same tree is there as well, apparently, to symbolize like, you know, I don't know what the fuck it's supposed to symbolize, that they were both buried over, you know, graveyards or something like that. So,
yeah.
But that tree, man. Until it starts eating him, it's so fake. It's fake the whole way through. Like, they can make trees better than that. Like, from a movie, like, that has some of the best effects I've ever seen. Like, that white ghost that, you know, that doesn't let her in the door.
Yeah, the weird dog thing.
Yeah, that thing's crazy. I rewound it and watched it because I had a really good copy. I had like the Blu-ray, and I was just like, that is crazy good. Like that just perfect. Like that's how you make a great looking effect. And then it goes from that to that fucking tree. That the cylinder.
They're probably just trying to save some money. It's fine.
Just get a real tree. It's just a dead tree. You could have moved a dead tree from anywhere. You know, the tree.
Well, they did that for it, actually. The tree that was used on Neibolt Street was actually found in someone's front yard, and they asked permission to use it. They basically dug up this person's tree, used it in the film, and then took it back.
Here's your tree.
Yeah.
It's dead. But that's amazing. I really like the pacing of this film, as in I really like the subtle start to it. Nothing really seems that sinister at the start, and you got the start, you know, you've got all these really good family scenes again. It starts, you know, like the fork bending, and the kid, like, you know, he picks up the glass, and the bottom falls out the glass, and then he looks and his forks are twisting. You're like, that's cool. And then it's got, you know, the dog barking, you know, at spots in the house. I'm like, I find that really cool. And then it's got one of my favorite scenes ever: the chairs that recombobulate themselves up onto the table. You know the one?
That's really good. Yeah. So, she's like telling off Carol Ann for moving the chairs, and then she turns around and they're like stacked up on the table.
And it's all one shot. So yeah, and they're stacked up in this really like reverse pyramid-y kind of thing, or maybe a pyramid. You know, something that couldn't be done in 1 second. So they obviously must have run. So it's got her with the chairs, and then she moves to the sink, and the camera follows her, and then pans back, and it's there. Like, it's an instant thing. And there is one bit, though, I rewound it a couple of times and looked at it. My wife pointed out, look down in the very, if you look at, like, the top left-hand corner, there's a pot plant. And if when it moves over that you can't see the table, you see that pot plant get, like, just suddenly hammered, like someone's hit into it, where they've run in to grab all the chairs, like, which does take it up. But it's still just such a satisfying effect.
Yeah.
And then it moves from, you know, like points in the house have like ins and outs, and they can move certain parts. And it's really interesting. And it also, the idea that they're like these parents, they're like, you know, they're working, they're doing their own thing, you know, they live in the suburb, but they still smoke weed.
Oh yeah, I love that. So Steven Spielberg specifically cast some smaller named actors because he really wanted to have that feeling of just your everyday American family. So yeah, they are just working and living in suburban America, and they're doing what every other suburban American family are doing. But what are they doing behind closed doors? They were hippies. They're still smoking weed and, you know, hanging out and talking, shooting the shit. I love it.
Yeah. And then it goes, and then it was a really impressive shot I noticed in it where, like, it shows their kitchen. And then it cuts to, because the main dad is a salesman of houses and he is living
Yeah.
in one of the houses that he sells. And it cuts between their kitchen and then the house he's selling in exactly the same shot. And because the houses are all clones of each other, it's just a different room with different furniture in it and stuff. And I loved that shot. I was like, that's so clever. Like, cutting between the two houses to show that they are just like, cookie cutter houses.
Yeah, that's it. It's just, one thing after another. And I like that because suburban horror films started to there was like a period of time where suburban horror was like big. So like Halloween, technically, even though it's the slasher, it is part of that suburban, everyone has this idea of how it should be living in, small town America or just like this suburban towns. No one ever suspects that something evil or strange or paranormal will ever come their way.
Yeah, and especially in a brand new,
Housing development.
housing development kind of thing, which is another great thing. So it's cruising along. It's doing like the subtleness. It's awesome. It's really interesting. There's never any scenes where you're bored, and then all of a sudden the film goes to 1,000%. Like within one scene, the tree bursts into the house, starts eating a child. The closet opens and starts sucking the whole room out. Everyone falls in the fucking pool or whatever. There's a pool scene, and then then Caroline's in the TV. It's all happening. Like they can't even keep up. The kid has just gone through post-traumatic stress from like the boy from being eaten by a tree. They can't even like tend to him. They have to run out and try and find Caroline. He's just left there in shock. You remember, like with like goo all over him. He discovers her in the house,
bloody and muddy, and
they think she's in the pool. They're out there. This is all happening in the same scene. Like, and I was just like, shit. And then I was like, that scene happens, and I'm like, man, that was just like an intense bit of filming. So much happened, and then they bring in the experts, which is always my favorite thing in a film, and it's just such a good. So they bring in some paranormal investigators from like the university that are kind of like doing their degrees, but also kind of researching this on the side, I assume.
Yeah, because the woman was saying that she had a degree in psychology, but she was doing parapsychology, and people sort of like, turn their noses at her because it's not the thing to do.
Yeah.
But she's like, I'm a very sane woman, and this is just something that is very interesting to me. So.
Yeah, and the fact that they brought in the experts straight away, I was really impressed because like I'm tired of films where no one gets help. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so they just go straight away. They get help. They find some paranormal experts. They bring him into the house. They set up the cameras and that. And it has that glorious scene where the dude is like, I once filmed a car move, 7 feet across a table. The duration of the video took 8 hours. And he's like, oh, yeah. And he opens the door to the bedroom and just the whole bedroom's spinning around. And they're all just suddenly shitting themselves because they realize they've got something real on their hands. Such a mic drop moment. Like, so good. He's like, hold my beer. I'm just going to open this like door of this haunted room.
Check this out. I like that there was a little Incredible Hulk riding a horse as well in one of the scenes.
Yeah, and like
all the shit that was flying around the room.
And like a compass hits a record and it plays the record with the needle of the compass and just shit like that. And I'm like, ideas. It doesn't matter. None of it could happen. And then they've all set up, right? And they're all like, they're set up. They're all got their cameras. They're all sleeping together in the main bedroom because for safety. And like there's like 20 minutes of this film where all the dialogue is whispered.
Yeah,
it was so weird. Like Claire's like, why are they whispering?
Has bad hearing.
Oh yeah.
I almost had to put the subtitles on.
Yeah, Claire was like, why are they whispering? And I'm like, so they don't wake up the other people. She's like, no one's sleeping.
Clearly, no one is sleeping.
And then it goes to like, they start to get a little bit of hauntingness happening kind of thing. Like, one of the guys pulls his face off in a mirror, which looks gross.
It looks so good though. For 1982, that was incredible. And at this point in the film, I was sort of sitting there going, this film has no gore, no jump scares, and yet it's unsettling.
Yeah.
And I really like that about that film.
Yeah,
And then of course, as I was saying this, I'm like, there's nothing, like there's no gore, there's no blood, there's no jump, and then he starts like ripping his face off. I'm like, that's cool.
there it is. And then they he gets bitten by some mystical force, which we can only assume is the giant dog ghost that's guarding.
Yes.
So there's like a dog ghost guarding the door. I think that's the whole vibe of it. So because Caroline, the young girl, has been pulled into the closet, which is into the fucking ghost world or whatever it is. And then they realize that the students realize that they need to bring in the big guns, and so they bring in Zelda.
Oh, it's Tangina. Tangina.
What?
The character's name is Tangina. It's played by Zelda Rubinstein.
Oh yeah. I didn't know her name was Tangina. That's not a word.
Tangina.
It's like 10 vaginas.
Hey, it's a tan vagina.
Or tandem, 2 vaginas. We don't know.
So good.
We'll have to ask her. Anyhow, bring in the smallest lady known to man with the highest pitcher's voice.
I love her.
I remember as a kid when I used to watch this film, she was always the moment when I could relax. She was always like, oh my God, thank God the help is here. I feel so much more safer now. I used to get that in a lot of horror films when the expert came and you could relax a little bit more because shit could get handled all of a sudden.
Oh, and I like that the dad's she's gone upstairs and she's clearly asked him at the top of the stairs to do something, and then she disappears off set and he's just standing there staring down. She's like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm answering her with my mind. And she's just like, you're a smart ass.
Yeah.
I'm talking to the living. Talk to me, respond to me.
Yeah. She basically just fucking dropped her mic. To prove that she is the shit. And it goes,
she is the shit.
And then it goes through that that amazing concept of the closet is the in, and therefore and then the out is the roof of the dining room where shit can come out of the thing. So they throw the tennis balls through it and they work that out and they throw a rope in there and it has that weird cosmic idea of the bending of space or whatever. It's going in this way.
The episode of The Simpsons.
Yeah, do they do that in the That would have been homage to The Simpsons, isn't it?
Yeah, it's that episode where it's one of the Treehouse of Horror ones, and the Patty and Selma are coming over, and Homer has nowhere to hide, so he basically runs through this wall, and ends up in the 3D world.
Oh yeah.
And they send Bart in with a rope attached to him.
That's
He's
right.
Like, do you think you can jump it? And he's like, piece of cake. Falls into the void.
Because it has the one as well in The Simpsons where the house decides to kill itself and live with the Simpsons, and it does the house. It does the imploding house, which is life with the Simpsons. What other choice do I have? It decided death over living with us. It chose death. All that happens, and it has this amazing. I actually thought it was the end because I'd forgotten the only amazing fake ending. It's such a good fake ending as well. It goes for so long, it seems like an ending. The only reason I knew it wasn't an ending is because I was like, hang on, when does the clown bit happen?
Well, I know, that's exactly the same thing as I said. I'm like, wait, am I remembering this wrong? Do we have a wrong copy? Is this a weird cut? Because the clown scene never happened.
Exactly what I said to my wife. I was like, has this been edited? Is this an edited director's cut without the clown bit? Because, because they almost killed that kid or some shit?
It did, yeah.
Tell me about that.
Okay, so the poor kid, this clown thing, and let's just stop for a second and discuss who the fuck would have a clown that big just hanging out in their room.
Who the fuck would have that clown? It's the most heinous fucking thing in the world, man. It's like a big evil dick.
So the scene where Robbie is being strangled, by the clown. By the clown, they're becoming extremely tight, and the poor kid starts to choke.
In real life.
In real life, he screams out, "I can't breathe." Steven Spielberg and Tobe Hooper thought that he was ad-libbing and just instructed him to look towards the camera.
Keep going.
So it wasn't until Spielberg noticed that the kid's face had turned purple that he'd run over and remove the clown's arms from the kid's neck.
Oh my God, it's such a different time of film. Imagine that happened to fucking, to someone nowadays.
Oh, you can't do that. We've got child labour laws now.
That's true. Boring. Now, did you notice that there is I didn't notice this, and I had to look it up. So
Mm-hmm.
it's got one of those amazing scenes, where they the camera is stuck to the room and they turn the whole room around so it looks like she is like getting pulled up the wall. The old Nightmare on Elm Street trick. Did you
Yeah.
notice that in that scene when she's laying down and she's all relaxed, she lays down and she's
Yeah.
like, and there's like 4 pictures behind her, photos that there's like, and one of
Yeah.
them is Caroline. That when she gets pulled
Mm-hmm.
around the room, if you look at it, like in one of the shots, Caroline's picture is replaced by a black and white picture of like an old lady's face with a giant mouth.
Oh, see, I knew that that was a thing, but I completely missed it while I was watching because I was like looking out for it, and I just completely missed it. I'm like, okay, I missed it. Okay, that's cool.
Well, if you want to know, it's exactly 1 hour and 40 minutes into the film.
Yeah.
Because I went back and re-looked at it all quite a lot. It's not
You
that
did a really
good. I actually thought they could, if I, whether it was like they could have done it better. It could have been a bit of a more clearer thing or something like that. But it's still in there. I love those things like that, weird
Like,
things.
I love an Easter egg. I like the little things that if I don't necessarily like things being like, oh, like, yeah, like I get that reference. That's great. I like the little things that, like in Creepshow last week, that the little ashtray that she used to bash her dad's head in was used throughout the whole film.
Yeah.
Just the little things like that that aren't brought to your attention, but if you're paying attention, you're going to pick up on.
Mm. And then we get the ending where just shit goes 2,000% at the end of this film, eh?
Yeah.
And it's like fucking, he works out that what is it?
Yeah, bastard.
The
You
housing,
moved the headstone.
yeah, the whole housing estate. Like they got rid of a cemetery to build the housing estate, but they left the bodies there. They just moved the headstones, and it has this hilarious scene of him just yelling that into the dude's face in the rain, fucking with coffins flying out everywhere into people's faces, into fucking like cars, coffins exploding out of the ground. He is just yelling, "You didn't move the headstones! You didn't move them!" And
You do, didn't you? You bastard!
yeah, he starts crying, that dude, because he realizes he's fucked up. And basically,
Keep going down fucked up, Rob.
yeah, they just get in the car, the family, and they're like, "Fuck this shit," and they just bail.
Yeah.
And then the whole neighborhood goes to hell. Fucking fire goes everywhere. The ground explodes. And then the house just, as we said before, just decides to implode on itself and disappear in front of, and I love it all happened in front of the whole neighborhood. With all this shit's happening, they're all coming out of their houses and they just watch this house. And the guy did the estate and he realizes that he is really fucked up, hey? And he's probably not getting that.
You better believe everybody's moving out of that neighborhood.
He ain't getting his promotion. He ain't getting his corner office.
No, not even a little bit.
He's fucked up. Cut the credits. Oh no, it just has them driving off, doesn't it? Like, and that's it.
Well, they're at a hotel. They rock up to a hotel.
Right.
They walk in, close the door. He opens the door and just shoves the TV outside
into the rain.
Yeah, like, that's a bit rude. You could at least take it downstairs to the clerk. I like that. A little fun fact about this film was this film came about after they pitched a sequel to Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Oh, wait, so what? It was gonna be that?
So this could have been a sequel.
It has all the same kind of feelings, you know what I mean?
It does. Yeah, it definitely does. But yeah, no, it didn't happen, so this is what it turned out to be.
So you reckon they would have been like more of like this stuff was happening because aliens were coming back, or they'd affected these people? Maybe they could have been working. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
because that's kind of what the first Close Encounter is. It's just, it's really not about the aliens coming down. It's about like the fact that they are coming and it's affecting humans.
Yeah.
Just the presence of them arriving is making these people go to this point or some shit. I can't remember. I'm actually going to rewatch that. I've got it there ready to watch, but yeah.
Ready to go.
And now, what did you give this?
I gave this an A for awesome. Again, it's one of those films that I could have the A, B, C, D, J kind of deal.
It is exactly what it is. It's an A. It's an awesome film that everybody should watch.
Yeah. And the more you watch it and the more you read about this film, there's so much to it, and I love it because you could sit down and just write a history thesis on this whole film.
Yeah, well, we've been talking about it for a while now, and we didn't actually even get I skipped past a lot of my notes and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, I skipped past a few of mine. I didn't, we didn't talk too much about Tangina, but that's fine.
She is an expert.
She was an expert.
She has all
The house
that
is
great line.
clean.
Yeah, that house is clean line, but like how she kind of like prissies herself up a bit because she knows she's on film,
Yeah.
and she kind of does her
Yes.
hair a little bit and does like the side shoulder look.
Yeah.
And I love that, like just that adding that little bit in. Like she's been doing it for this long that she's just like, I've practiced this line. 'Cause it says that she's like, she had cleared heaps of houses, cleaned heaps of houses, and
Well,
she did know a lot. You know what I mean?
she did. But what I liked, so this film is the first film to deal with not just ghosts and hauntings, but EVP, so electronic voice phenomenon. This is the first film to ever deal with that. But I also really like that she's come in. She's come in with her big dick energy, and she's walking into this room. She's not terrified at all. Like she's calling the shots. She's like talking to everyone, like you need to be here. You need to be here. And then the mum is basically setting up to like walk through the closet with the rope, and she's just like, oh, like I should be doing this. And she's like, oh, well, this is my daughter. And she kind of looks at her and she's like,
You're right.
You're right. You go.
You do it. She has like,
sure.
She has there's so many good ideas in this film. There's a bit as well when they're trying to call Carol Ann, whatever her name is. And like the mum, she's not answering to the mum because they're trying to get, what is it? They're trying to get all the ghosts away from the closet. Because that's what's stopping them from getting in, because there's too many of them there wanting to, like, get out, get to close to Caroline, whatever bloody name is, the kid.
Her name's Carol Ann.
And they have the bit where, like, the mum's trying to talk to her and she doesn't answer, and she goes to the dad. She goes, like, who decides the punishment in the family? And he's like, oh, we don't punish our kid. She goes, like, yell at your kid, like, tell her off, make her answer you. And I thought that bit was such a good idea. Just the idea of it. And he's like, I will spank you if you don't. And she answers. And I'm like, just that idea. Like, who thinks it? Like, that's such a good, and it was just a passing idea. Like, there was nothing became of it. There's so many good little ideas in that. And now we are going to talk about Tangina.
Yeah. She's great.
Yeah. And I also like the fact that they really nailed their point across that these aren't bad ghosts, most of them. And, you know what I mean? They're just people that are confused or they don't know they're dead, and they're not malicious. There was one malicious one in there. Yeah. But, like, the majority of them were just, like, people just didn't know that they were dead. And she has that really beautiful explanation of what death is. And I really wished that was real. Do you know what I mean? Like, when I was watching, I'm like, why can't that just be the answer? Like going on to the next plane, and like this is, she just explained death and life, and in a really simplified, relaxing, safe way. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I love her. She's great. She's definitely like my favorite little bit of the film.
Is your favorite safety person that comes in and saves the day, the expert?
Yeah, she's my favorite expert. I love it.
All right, we have to move on to horror news. Each week, me and Jen take you through the horror news that you need to know about. Welcome to Horror News. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. And coincidentally as well, that our news music is the Gremlins theme.
Ah, perfect. I was listening to that in the car the other day. It was just like me driving down the street with my coffee at 10 a.m. Like,
you went full Gremlins this week.
I really did. Yeah.
Do you understand its majesty now? Do you remember, why I love it so much?
I do. It's
and it's a Christmas film, the first one.
That's right.
It's very much a Christmas film as well. It's not just set at Christmas. There's like Christmas carols in it. The Gremlins Christmas Carol, do you remember? Like, there's heaps of Christmas stuff in it.
Yeah. Oh, Christmas special. I love it.
Horror news.
Christmas is coming. Anyway, so Happy Death Day 3 working title and status revealed by director. So, this is exciting. I loved Happy Death Day, and I liked Happy Death Day to You.
I haven't watched the second one.
Look, it's not as good as the first. It didn't do as well box office wide either. Like, there's a lot of inconsistencies. But if you're someone like me who don't get no science, it really doesn't bother me.
Me no know how time works.
I don't know. I just like the film, the haha stab stab. Definitely give it a watch. But so Happy Death Day 3 has been sidetracked by the pandemic. But Christopher Landon made it abundantly clear that it's still on his docket. So at this stage, the working title is Happy Death Day to Us.
That's got 2 in it. Don't you need a 3 pun in there?
Well, us. There's more. That could be you, me, and the kitchen sink over there.
Could have been Happy Death Day to Thruss. To Thrush.
Yeah, that's going to do well in the marketing. Yeah, Jan from marketing's not going to be liking that one.
I would have called it Happy Death Days.
Yeah, days.
And the S as a 3.
Sure.
Or maybe the S in us could be a 3.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows? But the idea for the third film is not set in the same day. So this is directly quoted from what's his name? John Landis, Christopher Landon. Sorry.
Who is the director?
He is the director. So the first 2 films are basically set on the same day, whereas this one does not need to. So he's like, we're not up against a really difficult clock right now. The other movies were hard because they were set on the exact same day, so everyone had to look the same, be the same. The pressure is off there. So this leads us into this. We don't really know what's going to happen. We don't know any other information.
Was the second film just the same story? Like the same thing happened to her?
It is, but it's not. So it kind of explains how she ends up in the time loop.
Is it silly?
It is silly. It's because of the roommate and his science experiment.
Oh dear.
Oh no.
Oh, science.
Yeah.
Oh, long science.
Ruining the day again. So yeah, the young girl who plays Tree she'll be back as well. She's fantastic in this series. Like, I love her so much.
Yeah, she's great. Like, she was what made this film, like, or the first one. Like, I just think it worked so well because of how good she acted, her transformation of character, everything about like, it just worked. It's the new Scream, and not the new Scream because they are making the new Scream.
It's true.
No, no, they're not. Or are they?
Well, they're what the Scream 5.
This is them, isn't it?
It's
no, that's the Ready or Not people.
Ready or Not, yeah.
Sorry.
Fine, I forgive you. But yeah, Jessica Rothe. So I think she's just one of those people. So sometimes we watch a lot of these horror films now, and you can tell that the actress is just kind of in it for the paycheck. You know, we don't really get a lot of actresses coming through that you can tell that she's absolutely loving this role, whereas she does. She is so intensely dedicated to this series that she is what makes it. She gives it the heart and the soul.
Yeah. Without it, without her, this just wouldn't work.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't watch it though. I mean, I would, but I'd be like, I'll get to it eventually. Because she was the draw card in the end. That's what got me to watch it. I'm like, oh.
What, as in the first one?
Yeah. I don't know why it took me so long to watch it, but yeah, it was good.
So
yeah.
That's it. Back to it. Happy Death Day to us.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Happy Death Day to us. All right, let's move on. What's our next story?
So, the writers of 2005's House of Wax recall floating the idea of a prequel to movie studio, but that dream was melted real quick.
Oh, pun.
Thank you. I like to pun. So it made about 68 million worldwide at the box office, which Warner Brothers thought was a bit shit. So it just really wasn't revisited. So they basically what they wanted. So have you seen House of Wax?
Is that the Paris Hilton one?
That is the Paris Hilton one.
Yeah, back in the day. I can't remember one bit of it though. Not one bit
It's
of
alright.
it.
I'm sure we will watch it eventually. Look, it's not a bad film, and a lot of people are now sort of revisiting it and going, okay, this film isn't that bad. Like, why is it getting all this hate? And, I think we're now hitting a nostalgia. She doesn't even have that big a role in it.
True. But like people just like to hate her, didn't they?
It's true. I love Paris Hilton. She's smart and wily.
Wily?
Yeah.
Like she's a coyote?
Wily. Like a coyote. And it's all coming out now in her documentary. Like, everything she's been doing for the last, 20 years has all been an act. Amazing. Like, the voice, everything about it. Like, I read an article about her years ago, and it was all in that article. I'm like, oh.
Well, I always thought she probably was smarter than she seemed because of her, like, business stuff that seemed to work really well. And it was clear, like, the sex tape came out and all that shit. That was all, like, completely planned.
Well, yeah.
Well, I assume it was.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, but she worked with it.
She went with it. She owned it.
She did. Why not? But yes, so House of Wax. Basically, the idea was they were looking because the whole town is made of wax. So everyone in the town are wax. They're basically people covered in wax. So they kind of wanted to revisit it and look at how this town used to be and how they got to the point where it was like this abandoned town where this one guy turned everyone into wax figures.
Yeah, how could you possibly do that to that many people without like getting caught?
Exactly. I would watch that film.
So are they just real people?
Yeah. So all of the people that are in the cinema, there's all the church. There's these people just sitting there. They're all real people.
Does he skin them and then put wax on the outside?
No, he doesn't skin them. It all goes on. It all goes on live. They're alive.
Are they alive under there? I can't remember.
They are. Well, they were. Not so much now.
Like that wouldn't work, hey?
No, I don't think it would. But hey, I'm not going to argue with it. Because there's that scene where Jared Padalecki's sitting there and he's like a wax figure and there's like this little bit of wax like hanging off of him and his buddy's like, oh, it's all right, I'll get it. And he ends up like peeling off half of his face, which was really cool. So I think it could have worked. Potentially, it might work nowadays. Who knows? Probably a bit too
predictable. I don't know. It'd be hard. It's a good idea to work out how they all, how you take out a whole town and make them into wax people without like getting busted.
Mm-hmm. Well, because the film sort of it showcases like the murderer as a child, and his mum runs the wax museum, and then it's obviously them grown up. But throughout the film, you can sort of see the timeline. So there's all these people from like, let's say it's like the 80s, and then there's all people. So they've clearly come through looking for the attraction, stumbled upon this town, and they've died. So this could spawn like heaps of sequels.
Yeah, right. Well, I'll definitely watch it.
Yeah,
one day. You'll make me watch it probably.
Probably. Just you wait. I haven't made you watch a lot of like spooky house stuff yet.
Spooky. Yeah. I did Amityville back in the day. Can't remember any of them, but I remember I did them. Yeah.
There's a film that I was just made aware of recently called Amityville Clown House. and I'm going to make it I'm not going to say it's my life mission. It's going to be my week mission to find it and watch it because I believe it's going to be a big piece of shit.
Amityville Clown House.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it sounds like a bloody nightmare. Moving on. Our final story from bloodydisgusting.com.
Yes. Megan Fox horror film Till Death wraps production amid pandemic.
Oh, they just don't care. They just filmed it anyway.
So the film was shot in Bulgaria.
Do they have coronavirus there? Do they have people there?
I assume so. The principal photography took place over the summer, so this was all before like lockdown hit. So they've been in Bulgaria since then. So shooting wrapped on the 7th, and there were no reported COVID cases, unlike Batman, who first week of filming they had to shut down because Robert Pattinson got COVID.
Batman, you'd think he'd have an antidote.
Well, yes. COVID repellent bat spray. Come on.
There was a Batman story called Batman Europa where him and Joker both get a deadly virus or that's given to them by someone, and they have to team up and go to Europe and find out and get the antidote.
Oh,
it was well done, and it was 4 issues, and every issue was done by a different artist. So real good artist. It was written by like Brian Azzarello or something like that. I can't remember. Anyhow, nothing to do with this. So what is this film about?
Okay,
Megan Fox.
Yes, Megan Fox, she's getting back in the acting bandwagon. Kudos to her. So Till Death tells the story of Emma, played by Megan Fox, who is left handcuffed to her dead husband as part of a sickening revenge plot, and she must survive 2 hired killers on their way to finish the job.
Okay, it doesn't sound like a horror film. That sounds like a thriller.
It does. I'm guessing that the husband is like decomposing real quick and his body's just falling. I don't know.
Oh, so she's handcuffed to him for the whole film.
I assume so. I haven't seen anything about this film, so I haven't seen trailers. I haven't seen anything aside from this was probably the first thing that I saw.
Well, there's another article about it. Horror gets handcuffed to Megan Fox until death.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a different photo. It's actually the same article, just a different photo at the top. And she's like floating above a pool, like it's a ghost.
Why?
Bit weird.
Sure.
Why not?
I don't know. He might be talking to her from the grave.
Well, she's floating.
Oh.
Or something. So there must be some sort of, there must be some sort of a mysticalness to it to throw it in the horror category. I think the horror part of it is just her thumbs.
She has weird toe thumbs. She really does.
It should have been called Toe Death instead of Till Death. And it's just all about people going out with her until they see that she's got toes for thumbs. And then
she's a very beautiful actress, and I mean Hollywood really screwed her over real bad. Michael Bay just
no, that's just Michael Bay screwed her over real bad.
Just a piece of shit, that guy.
But what she really needed to do from then was like after trannies formers, she really needed to deep dive into some serious films. I just don't think she did she? She kind of just
no. I think she did like the Ninja Turtle film after that. Yeah.
Which is the polar opposite to a deep dive into a serious film. She has to do like what is it? Scarlett Johansson does Avengers, then does like Under the Skin. You know what I mean? Like she needed to do the art film. First you do. I mean,
she was in Jennifer's Body, and that was really good. That copped a lot of hate, but that was a great film.
Yeah, that was pretty good actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I have no problem with her as an actress. I think she's a beautiful lady, and she takes the roles that she gets.
Yep.
And it's just she's got toes for thumb. I can't get over it. Look it up, everyone. Look it up. You can just write Megan Fox probably in Google search, and probably thumb toes will come up as one of the things. Megan, let's see. Fox. Okay, I was wrong. Oh no, that's not how you spell her name. Megan Fox T. No, S. Nah, I'm wrong.
Nah.
Look it up yourselves.
Okay. Well then.
Clearly it's not as big a news as I thought it was. All right.
Yeah.
I'll be looking at that. So, also, as well, I just want to quickly mention that as part of that PlayStation thing, that they did, the big reveal thing recently, they revealed like Resident Evil Village.
Yes.
Which is
I haven't watched the trailer yet.
Which is, what is that? VI? What is that? 7, 8?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's Resident Evil 8. And so what they're doing is what I said they should do, which is great because I was right, is that they remade, Resident Evil 1 and 2.
Yeah.
3? No, they remade 2 and 3. But instead of going to 4 and remaking 4, they've remade 4 as 7. So
Right.
village is because like in Resident Evil 4, this is what my theory is. In Resident Evil 4, you were in the villages of this foreign country, and they were more like kind of possessed people than zombies and stuff like that. And it's exactly kind of like what looks like the vibe they're going for here. Because there's no point in remaking all the Resident Evil films. I mean, video games, because you're just going to catch up and it's just going to be moot, you know what I mean? It won't make sense. And no one wants to play 5 or 6 again. They were terrible games, in my opinion. And so this is like, so they've just kind of jumped from, so if you think about it, it now goes Resident Evil 2 remake, Resident Evil 3 remake, then Resident Evil 7, and then Resident Evil Village as like they're the 4 that you play. That's the chronological order that you play them, which is kind of cool.
Okay.
The shit from this new one, Village, looks crazy. Like they've gone to the first person thing again. They've got this overarching story of this family and this nursery rhyme, and then like the pictures of the shots of the village people, full on. Like this is going to be great. This is going to be like this is my Silent Hills, I reckon.
So your pick for 2021? When's it out? Is it out this year or next year?
Don't know, but they are having a half an hour presentation next week at TGS 2020. I don't know what TGS stands for. The Gacy Jordan show. So there is what is it? The Tokyo Game Show that stands for, by the way.
Okay, yep.
The Tokyo Game Show 2020 next week. They're going to have a half an hour presentation about it, so they'll probably show heaps. Half an hour is heaps long.
Yeah.
They're also showing a 50-minute Hyrule Warriors 2 whatever it is presentation. 50 minutes?
Because they really got to push Hyrule, because Hyrule didn't do very well on release.
No, or it's just Dynasty Warriors clone.
Yeah, it did not do well. So I feel that they're like, oh, let's do this, but we're gonna have to put a lot of time and energy into it, guys. Yeah, I don't have high hopes.
Anyway, is the horror news for this week. Take us out, Jen.
Well, let's talk about what we're going to watch next week.
Yeah, what are we watching next week? Yep.
Well, I've left it as a surprise, as always.
Yeah, you're going to write it in there?
I love a surprise. So we are going to watch Reanimator.
Nice.
Yes. And we are going to watch Street Trash.
Oh, Street Trash? Really? That's good. I started watching Reanimator a couple of weeks ago. I got about 20 minutes in, and I just didn't have time to finish it. So that's good, because I was going to actually use that as one of my, my ones for the show. That works out well, because I already have watched a little bit of it, but I'm going to have to go back and rewatch it now. Oh, God.
Yeah, like I say, I've tried watching it 3 or 4 times in the last 6 months, and I get to the same point at every time I get there. Something happens, I have to turn it off and come back to it, and I never come back to it. So
is it the dismembered head cunnilingus scene?
It is not that scene.
Oh, well, let's talk about that next week.
I just have that on constant repeat. It's like a GIF that's running through my... No, I'm kidding. I'm not that gross.
Is he in your wank bank? Street Trash is great. One of my favouriteest covers, the one with the big blue face on the front.
Yes.
It's a body melt one, isn't it?
I love a body melt.
Yeah, and Reanimator is just fucking something.
Super goopy. Yeah, it's
excellent.
It's great.
Now,
anyway,
take us out.
Yes. Right, so you've been listening to TerrorVision Horror Podcast with Dan and Jennifer. Our podcast is available on all streaming services, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, basically where any good podcasts are found. We are also available on YouTube. So please, leave us a star rating, leave a comment, follow us, thumbs up, all of the above. We have an Instagram at TerrorVisionPod. Lots of cool stuff goes up there. We have an email at TerrorVisionPod@gmail.com. If you have anything you'd like to discuss with us, any comments, hate mail, fan mail, anything you want to say, you can contact us there. Otherwise, you can also contact us on our Facebook page and our Instagram. Which is where most people do it, not the old... It's true. I love the interaction we have on ye old Facebook. Ye old Facebook. It's a good time. And you can also check out me over on Hack the Dino Gaming Network, or whatever it's called. Just look at Hack the Dino Gaming, where you can catch me live over on Twitch every second Friday at 7 p.m. for casual hangs, chats about games, nerdism, and stupidity.
I'll do that
love
with
it.
Ben Rosenthal, Floppy Starrick, and Braden Dixon. So it's basically like a nerdy variety video game show. Very laid back, very off the cuff, very unplanned. We have a chat. We talk to the chat. And yeah, it's actually happening this Friday. So tune in this Friday at 7 p.m. on Twitch. Look up Hack the Dono and join the chat and say, poke a stick at me or whatever.
Yep.
So do that. We've actually changed our look just recently. So yeah. Check out the new show. And until next week, everyone, may all your beautiful dreams be nightmares.